With the ability to A/B test A+ content now, it's easier than ever to try and figure out how to improve your design. In this particular video, I'm going to be showing you how our designer took a good A+ content design and took it to the next level. My name is Stephen Pope, and this is my Amazon Guide. So first, this is a current design. You can see what it currently looks like. And I'll scroll all the way to the bottom. So it's got all the boxes checked, right? It's got big modules, it takes up space, it's got a product grid, and it's got lots of copy. Those are the kinds of things I like typically in an A+ content. Here, though, is the new design, and you can see it looks a little bit clearer. It's sharper. It's got more sparkle to it, if you will. It still has a product grid, still has some additional product modules, but it now has a nice checkbox of all the great things that are what's awesome about the product. And we kept one of the product grids we felt like was worth keeping, as well as the brand story. So we took a kind of a shift on mainly the main two big graphics. And so we're going to pull up our designer's work here, and I'm going to actually play through and watch them as they design in real time. So first, they're gathering assets. They're looking at all the images, and they're putting them all together so that they know, here's what I have to work with. And so we're looking at all the images to see, what do I want to plug and play? What do I want to put into the design, right? So she's looking at the current design and saying, hey, maybe if I did something like this or that, get it into the works, right? So with A+ content, there's a bunch of best practices to keep in mind, right? You want to make sure you take up as much space as possible, and you want to worry about two factors. One is traffic, and the second is conversion. All right, so now we're opening up into Photoshop, setting it up, getting all the graphics built into place. And whenever you're focused on those traffic and conversion elements in A+ content, you can put keywords behind each photo's alt text. That is the number one most missed aspect whenever you do A+ content. And typically that's because when you give it to a designer, they're really good at designing, but they're not thinking about SEO. And so you want to make sure your design has both conversion elements like a designer will typically do, and then also include in it traffic elements. And so that's putting keywords into the copy, keywords behind each photo's alt text. All right, so now the designer here is playing with colors and looking at what's going to pop, right? Is it the black and white? Is it some blue? Taking some keywords and features and re-emphasizing them into the A+ content. So far she's settled on using some blue text on a white background. And it's interesting to see how a designer can kind of go through some iterations. See, you're blowing up the text right there, moving it around, switching colors potentially to see what's going to pop the best, right? And you know, maybe change the font, maybe change the size, and just keep going back. And so it went from thin to thick. It's really fun to see how the designer, you know, what's going on in their head. It's a very different personality to do design versus, say, run your PPC ads, right? Typically not the same person doing both of those things, right? One's very analytical, making sure things are checked and in place. The other is more of the aesthetics and the art behind it. So I'm the analytical guy. I am not the art guy, which is why I'm not designing, and I'm having this video play from a designer where I speak to it. And so I enjoy watching these because it's a foreign world to me, right? You're watching a designer and they're plug and playing things and trying to see what's going to look best. I know what the final output's going to look like, and it's like, but I have no idea how she's going to get there. So it's kind of fun to see that. So this particular graphic ends up being the top graphic on the detail page and is, quite frankly, the most important graphic to get correct because it's the first thing the consumer sees as they scroll down. Now, mind you, A+ content is below the fold. Consumers have to go look for it. And with Amazon, there's so many different competing noises on the detail page that it's why it's a good reason to take lots of space with your modules, right? So in typical e-commerce, you send them to your website. You don't want to take a lot of space. In fact, you only have one buy button, and you want to get them through checkout as fast as possible. A+ content's job fits a very different opportunity, right? So not only is it good for SEO, right? And Amazon claims they don't index content and A+ content. they're fibbing. They totally do. The reason I know this is because we've tested Spanish and alt text keywords of a photo, and it totally indexes, right? But with the website, you want to have a very frictionless environment. On Amazon, the longer Amazon exists, the more friction they create, right? They're a platform to sell items. They're not a platform to sell your items, right? Think about that. They don't care if your item sells as long as they get a sale somewhere. So Amazon's going to position products based on where they think they can get the best sale. So if you have a higher conversion rate than somebody else, they're going to position your product better for keywords and index you better. So that's why it's an opportunity to get your content in a good place and a good shape so that you can convert the best that you possibly can do, right? So whenever you build A+ content, you're taking up lots of space because you don't want them to go down somebody else's product rabbit hole, click on somebody else's product ads, if you will. And you do want them to spend time considering your item. Now, a lot of shoppers, they're not going to even scroll down to the A+ content. They're just going to make their decision based on, 20, 30 seconds at the top of your detail page, read your bullets, and they're done. That's not what A+ content's for. It's not for those consumers. However, those consumers are reaching the page because the A+ content has matriculated keywords and positioned them well over time and made it so that you could find the product to begin with. Right? So I'm spending a lot of time trying to set up why traffic is so related. All right, here's one of my favorite parts about design. So she's drawing around the glass, and she's going to cut it out and then do a different background, right? This is super tedious work. Notice she's going pixel by pixel almost, very zoomed in, takes a lot of time to do this. And that is one of the most important things to do with Photoshop when you're building out your A+ content, because if you do this part wrong, it looks weird. It doesn't look as sharp. And so here's some cool ice balls from this Arctic Chill product that are going to look really cool once put into a different graphic setup. But it takes a while. It takes a long while. All right, so we've established that A+ content can help build your traffic and you can put keywords in. It's good for conversion too because it helps the consumer envision themselves using it. All right, so now we've cut that out. We've put it onto a graphic here and seeing what that looks like. Now we're going to go look at another glass and cut that one out as well, right? So sometimes images are too busy, and cleaning them up and simplifying them down using a design artist to do that is very, very viable. So she's going around this glass, cutting it out, and putting it into a nice, cleaner image, and that helps the consumer envision themselves using the product, and it gives a clean aspiration of what I think I would feel like if I was using the product. And so cutting these things out and putting it onto a white background sometimes can look better than having it in a cluttered down, detailed image. So this kind of emphasizes, hey, these ice balls are really neat. You can put them in all kinds of different aspects. You can put them in a bigger glass drink and tea. You could put it in your alcoholic beverage with your tumbler, or you could even put it in a bowl and put it on display and throw a flower inside of it, right? Some really cool things that you can do with these ice balls. All three things are immediately understandable to the consumer with a quick glance at looking at this photo. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. And so she's still doing some cleanup work on the image to make sure it looks better. And taking it in and out to see, what could be done there. And I'm curious what she does with this. I don't recall looking at the final version how she cleans it up. I'm speeding this up just a tiny bit to see what's the plan. Notice how she flexed the ice cube and made it a little bit more transparent. Not something a non-designer would think to do, right? Like transparency editing, interesting, really interesting. All right, so I think she's going to do the same thing with this glass, make it a little bit clearer of an image, or edit the transparency as well. See if we can make those ice cubes pop a little bit more. Let's see what she does with this. It's kind of fun watching the ghost of an image go back and forth here. Yeah, I can see that definitely cleaned it up a little bit. All right, and doing that one more time on this one. cutting out the items inside of the glass. As you zoom in, you can actually see each individual pixel, which is kind of fun. Looks a little bit Minecrafty as you zoom in there. Oh yeah, and then when you zoom out like this, boom, and then playing with the contrast now of the background image. Makes it look way poppy. I like how the straw now looks a little bit clearer too. So cleaning up images like this and editing and building them out can completely revolutionize how your A+ content converts, right? So if you take whatever you've got in place currently, right? So if you're watching this video, you already have A+ content built currently, and you're trying to think, what can I do to excel and take it to the next level? So here are some ideas. Number one, redo the main graphics like what we're doing in this video. Number two, if you don't have a product grid in place, get one. And that product grid will allow for higher average order value creation and allow you to order multiple items by clicking on one item or two items and adding it to the cart, right? And that product grid is probably my personal favorite module because it's a little underutilized. And if you include the module there, and someone says, hey, they sell ice cubes in this size, but they also sell square shape ones and circle balls and spears and whatnot, and maybe they want to buy all of the above instead of just one item. So that can be very beneficial. All right, so now we're playing with putting in the finished product right next to the products, which helps the consumer, again, envision them using this item next to the other one. Back to that A/B testing idea. So plug and play in left and right, see what looks better, right? That's interesting. So when you're A/B testing, you could test a completely new design, right, with multiple changes and multiple variations, or you could do a single module test. You could test whether including the product grid or not including it is better. Hint, I know the answer to that, include the product grid. You could test having one of the images switched out, or you could move the modules around, like change the order, put one above another one. There's kind of world is your oyster on what you test with A+ content. A lot of different options that you can have. So what I would do if I was in your shoes is I would go either one of two routes. I would test one single element, so you have a definitive, yes, making this element change makes sense, or I would go for a new design and test a bunch at the same time. You don't want to do 2Z, 3Zs kind of edits because you won't be able to affirmatively know which change was the one that made the difference. So and it takes A+ content like 30 days to do a test to get enough data. So whatever you do, know that you're going to be stuck that way for 30 days. So either bunt and get on first base or go for the home run and do the whole thing over. That's what I would recommend with that. So if you don't have a designer to run your A/B test, then do a simple module swap or an image swap, right? And you could do that without design help. If you need a designer, maybe go the full home run aspect and just redesign it from scratch, or maybe you've got better images now, more people involved, that kind of thing, to see what's happening. All right, so now we're trying to emphasize the features, adding some check marks, which helps the consumer, relate to the item, and testing the location of where those check marks should go. This particular image is going to end up towards the bottom of the A+ content and can help the consumer make that final decision to make the purchase. So probably the other thing a lot of people underutilize on A+ content is resizing the images of each individual item for resolution relationship to the product grid. So you can't just take your main image and load it to the product grid. You actually have to resize it, and that takes a little bit of extra effort. If you don't, it will look either too thin or too fat of an image. So that's another tip to recommend when you look at making the product grid. Any image you load, check that resolution, make sure it makes sense. And now the designer is editing the kerning, which is the spacing between the letters, and making sure that they are spaced appropriately, because sometimes if your kerning is too tight, it makes it harder to read the text. Or if it's too jumbled next to other text, it's hard to read, right? So you want to get that spacing just right, and that's really kind of a fun design element. Still moving these pieces around just to kind of feel out where they should go. And here we go. We got the finished product on that banner. So that's going to replace that blue tinted one. So it's going to be a lot cleaner, We're going to rebrand some of these images to see what would look best, right? And just get away from the previous design with the heavy, dark nature blues. And we're going to go bright and fun, because when you have ice cubes, you want to have fun, right? So we're going to replace some of these other modules. And again, the previous design did it justice. It did it okay, right? It showed the product, it showed and told it, and we're just taking it to the next level here by trying to make it shine and be a really, really clean design. So I'm going to swap some of these graphics out and see what looks best as we go along here. And now you can see all the modules that we're plugging and playing and trying to figure out, okay, do we need to switch the modules, or do we just need to replace pictures that have been used there to see what they look like? So swapping out the 3 current images with 3 potentials to see, okay, what can I play with here? Where can I go with this? All right, didn't like that one, switch that out. And then we liked the bottom image with a lot of the mosaic, if you will, elements, and so we kept that one. So going back and looking at features again, trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to espouse here? What do I want to emphasize and think about? Getting close to wrapping this particular design. Changing some additional text, because sometimes you want some bullet points, other times you just want some paragraph form text. When you hit the edit and you look at the preview, you can figure out, hey, does this look good or not? So it looks like the design, I just skipped going back here for a second. I'm going to pause on the final design here in a second. So, okay, boom, final design right there, boom, all on one screen. Here's the final product. And then from here, the designer uploads it into Seller Central. And of course, it can take anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks for the design to get matriculated and approved by Amazon and be live. So with that said, thank you for watching our tutorial on how to take your current A+ content and take it to the next level. I hope you enjoyed watching a designer do some finessed work here. And if you need any A+ content, you want to hire an expert to come in and do some work for you, we do sell A+ content $500 per design. And you can go over to myamazonguy.com, click on Enhance Brand Content, and get started now. And we would be happy to deliver that. We typically deliver within 4 business days from the time of your order. And we have lots and lots of designs that we have on our store here, showing all previous kinds of work that we've done. And we've done it for beauty products, and we've done it for widgets, and even cornhole. So we've been around the block for typical types of products we can do this for. So we hope you order from My Amazon Guy. And if you have any questions about A+ content or anything in Seller Central, don't hesitate to leave a comments. We hope you subscribe. And my name is Stephen Pope, and I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy.